in me. Every time I touch that track, it turns into gold. Everybody knows I got the magic in me.
Welcome back to the geometry unit. Today we're going to be talking about angles. We're going to begin our conversation with angles by talking about angle relationships. As you see there, we have an angle that has some vocabulary terms defined for us, the two legs and the vertex. So let's get started by taking a look at more vocabulary terms right now. So here we are with some key definitions. So the first type of angle we're going to be talking about is complementary angles. Complementary angles are two angles whose measures have a sum of 90 degrees. So for example, here we've got 65 plus 25. 65 plus 25 does equal 90 degrees, so those two angles are complementary. Supplementary angles are two angles whose measures have a sum of 180 degrees. So our example there is 75 plus 105. Add those two angles together and you will get 180. Next, we have adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are two angles who have a common side and vertex, and they may not or may be congruent. So those are angles that are going to be right next to each other. They're going to share a side and a vertex. We just saw on the other slide there what a side and a vertex is. They need to be sharing one of those in order to be adjacent. Vertical angles are two angles who are across from one another, and they are always going to be equal, and they are always going to be congruent. So if you look down there at our example, we have two sets of vertical angles. We have 146 across from 146. They are vertical angles. And we have 34 across from 34. They are vertical angles because they are across from each other, they are equal, and they are congruent. Now let's take a look at example A. So here we are at example A, and it wants us to identify all the pairs of complementary angles on the top and all these supplementary angles on the bottom. So we're going to start at the top with complementary angles, remembering that complementary angles are two angles. They're going to add together to give us 90 degrees. Or they're going to be giving us a complement, and a complement is the right thing to do. So a right angle, 90 degrees, an excellent way to remember that. So let's take a look at the first one, 18 plus 72. If we add those two together, we get 90, so that is an example. 38 plus 38 does not equal 90, so not so much. 34 plus 66 does equal 90, so that's a match. 45 plus 45 is also 90, so that's a match. 130 plus 30 plus 150, not going to work out, so that is going to not be a match. Looking down there at the bottom, we're going to be taking a look at our supplementary ones now. So we're going to be looking for things that add up to 180 degrees. So two right angles would be 90 plus 90, so that works, 180 degrees. 12 plus 68, 168. 168 plus 12 is going to give us 180. That is correct. 100 plus 100 is 200, not so much. 20 plus 70 is 90, which makes those complementary, not supplementary, so not what we're looking for. And 127 plus 53 does equal 180, so that is an example. Now let's take a look at example B. So here we are at example B, and it says circle all the words that describe the angles shown. So we're going to go through each of the words and see if they match our angles that we have there to see which ones are right and which ones are wrong. So complementary means 90 degrees added together. 49 plus 49 does not equal 90 degrees, so they're not going to be complementary. 49 plus 49 does not equal 180, so they're not going to be supplementary. Vertical means that they are across from each other, and they are equal, and that is true, so they are going to be vertical angles. Are they adjacent? Do they share a side and a vertex? No, they do not. They share a vertex here in the middle, but they do not share either side, so they are not adjacent. And since they are not adjacent, since we just figured out they are not adjacent, we can pick non-adjacent. And are they congruent? Are they the exact same measurement? 49 and 49 are the same, so they are congruent angles. Now let's go take a look at example 2 over there. Complementary means they equal 90. 62 plus 118 is not going to equal 90, so complementary is out. Supplementary, 62 plus 118, do they equal 180? They do, so they are supplementary. Vertical angles, are they across from each other and equal? Not so much. We can also eliminate congruence, so we know they're not going to be equal. Non-adjacent means that they're not next to each other, but they are next to each other because they share a vertex and a side. So here's our vertex, here's our side that they share together, and since they share a vertex and a side, that makes them adjacent angles. Now let's take a look at example C. Here we are at example C, and it's talking about missing measures. So we're going to take what we know about angle relationships and use that information to try and figure out the pieces that are missing. So the first one talks about what is the value of y, and the only information we have is that y is straight across from x. And since y is straight across from x, we know that they are vertical angles, and we know vertical angles are equal and they are going to be congruent. So if one of them is 97 degrees, the other one is going to be 97 degrees, and that is our answer. For number 2, it says, what is the measure of angle 2 if angle 3 is 95 degrees? So knowing that angle 3 here is 95 degrees, and knowing that they are along this straight line, which is 180 degrees, we know that these two angles are going to be supplementary. So they're going to equal 180. So if I just take 180, subtract the 95 that I already have, the remaining amount will give me the answer to our complementary angle. Supplementary angle. So 180 minus 95, you can use your Desmos calculator if you're not sure, and get 85 degrees. The last one we have is what is the value of A? We can see that they're making a right angle there. We've got a right angle marker to let us know that they're going to be 90 degrees. Two angles added to 90 degrees are going to be complementary. So we're going to take our 90, subtract the 23 that we already have. Again, we could use our Desmos calculator if we're not sure. 90 minus 23 is going to give us 67 degrees. So our answer is 67. Now let's move on to example D. So here we are at example D, and it's again talking about missing measures, but this time we're going to be needing to find many of the missing measures using the things that we know about angles. So starting on our left-hand side, we see that we only have 52 degrees. We have to figure out angle A, B, and C. So the first thing we're going to do is notice that 52 is directly across from B, which makes it a vertical angle. So we know they're going to be equal. So if 52 is there, then B will also be 52 degrees. So we've got that answer right away. Now we need to figure out some other relationship that we can use to help us solve this problem. It appears that A and 52 are along this straight line, which means they're going to be supplementary. So we can take 180 and subtract 52. And if we do that, the remaining amount will tell us the missing angle. So 180 minus 52 is going to be 128 degrees. So that means that angle A is 128 degrees. So let's fill that in. And now that we know that A is 128 degrees, we can use our, again, vertical angles tool to realize that A is right across from C. And since A is right across from each other and they are equal, if A is 128 degrees, C is 128 degrees, and we figured out all our missing angles on the left-hand side. Now let's take a look at the right-hand side there. And again, this one looks a little more complicated. We have 4 angles to figure out, but we're going to use the information that we have in order to be able to get this done. So the first thing we know that F has a marker for 90 degrees, so that's pretty easy, letting us know that F is 90 degrees, so we can just fill that one right in. If we know F is 90 degrees, then we know along this straight line, the other side must also equal 90 degrees. So that means E and the 27 that we have are going to be complementary angles. They're going to equal 90 degrees. So if we take our 90, subtract the 27 that we have right now, 90 minus 27 is going to give us 63. So we have 63 degrees for letter E. And let's fill that in down at the bottom. So now that we have that, we need to notice that E and G are vertical angles. They're across from each other, which means they're equal. So if E is 63, then G is also going to be 63 degrees, which leaves us with just D to figure out. And in order to figure that out, we need to notice that D and G are supplementary angles along this straight line. So they're going to equal 180 degrees together. So if we take our 180 degrees, subtract the 63 that we already have, we'll end up with 117 degrees for D. And we figured out all our missing measures. Now let's take a look at the last example. So here we are at example E, and it says find the angle relationship. So we've got a list of all the different angle relationships that we have to find based on the shape we have above. So we're going to start on the left-hand side. It says name all the angles adjacent to angle E. So angle AE is here that we're going to color in purple, and we're looking for adjacent angles. So those are angles that are going to share a side and a vertex, or angles that are just next to it. So the angle next to E on one side is angle H, and the angle on the other side is angle D. The next thing we need to do is name all the pairs of vertical angles. So on one side of our vertical angles, again, they're going to be equal to each other. We only have 2 sets of angles that are equal to each other. It looks like E and G are exactly the same. So angle E and angle G. Going over to the right-hand side, now name all the pairs of supplementary angles. So again, we're looking for things that are going to add up to 180. So looking at our angles here, there's only a couple that are going to be able to add up to 180. 27 plus 90, not so much. 27 plus 63, no. 90 plus 63, no. So the only things that can add up to 180 are this 117 and 63. And we can see that's angle D and angle G. However, those aren't the only 117 and 163 combinations. We could also add 117 from D and 63 on E because they are vertical angles. So angle D and angle E are also supplementary angles. Then we need to get down to all our pairs are complementary angles, so those are angles that are going to add up to 90. And it's very important here that you do not select angle F. Angle F is one angle that is 90 degrees. It's a right angle. It is not complementary to anything because it doesn't add up to 90. So the angles that add up to 90 are E and H, so angle E and angle H, as 63 and 27 add up to 90. And again, because we have vertical angles there, angle G and angle H add up to 90. So those are our complementary angles. So we found all of our angles to our shape, which brings us to the end of this example. It also brings us to the end of this set of notes. If you like this video, go ahead and throw us a thumbs up. If you love this video, go ahead and throw us a sub, and we will catch you in the next one.
When I hit the floor, the girls come snapping at me.